Hi, everybody. My name is Scott Masage. I'm the practice director for BI at Ironside. Thanks for joining our second Take30. And actually, while we are waiting, I'm going to throw up a poll. And so take a look at that poll. We've got a couple of different polls here. But as we're waiting, so you can take a look at that. I will go ahead and get started with a little bit of presentation up front, and then I'll turn it over to our assembled experts who will introduce themselves, and we'll start to take some questions. So to start, again, the topic today is ask me anything about Cognos Report Studio. Quick agenda. Again, we're going to get a little background on Ironside. Introduce our panelists, our experts, and then turn it over to you for your questions. So just a reminder of a calendar of events. Today, again, is they asked me anything about Report Studio. Next week, what's new with Tableau? We're going to partner with Tableau on that one. The week after that, an introduction to Amazon QuickSight. Then Cognos Analytics Data Modules versus Framework Manager. Which one is right for you? On the 21st, that will be a repeat of our first session. The focus is on Power BI metadata. And then on the 28th, we will do a deep dive into data sets, which are a powerful feature of Cognos Analytics. So, our tagline, our mantra, if you will, we help our clients use data to make better decisions about their business. That's really what we're all about. Wanted to talk through a holistic view of our capabilities. We understand that data and analytics are critical for decision making in any organization, especially now. But when deploying or enhancing your existing analytic capability, we see these 6 steps in the center of this wheel as critical to any successful implementation. This model is meant to outline how Ironside can assist your organization with all these steps, no matter where you are on the journey. So first, we offer advisory services both at the strategic and tactical level. We can help you with the design of your technical architecture, your data structures, and your analytic interfaces using design thinking. We have deep experience in building all manner of analytics, data and AI, machine learning, dashboards, and reporting, both on-prem and in the cloud, and across a range of prominent vendor technologies. We can help you deploy, upgrade, and migrate your analytics ecosystem. We can help you manage your data and content to ensure it is well governed and provides a single view. And then finally, we offer data science as a service, managed platform services, and flexible application support so you can focus on innovation and generating business value from data. Okay, so let me turn it over to the team to do intros.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to meet you, everyone here. My name is Susan. I'm one of the hands-on BI consultants at Ironside. My Cognos experience can go back to as early as Series 7 Impromptu, if you know that product. My strengths are in creating complex dashboard reports and metadata modeling. In addition, because I was software engineer before, I'm also specializing in system customization, SDK. So I cannot wait to hear some questions from you guys.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Suresh Idra. I'm an engagement manager at Ironside. I've been working in the BI space for over 15 years, and I've been with Ironside almost over 8 years now. And as Susan mentioned, I've started working in Cognos since the Series 7 and seen Cognos grow from like a desktop tool to where it is right now. And my specialization is overall system architecture and design in terms of Cognos and OLAP modeling, complex dashboard reports.
Good morning, everyone. Bob O'Donnell, senior consultant here at Ironside. I've been with the team for about 2.5 years. For the 18 years before that, I was pre-sales and technical sales for Cognos, and then ultimately IBM, obviously. My focus has always been metadata modeling and advanced reporting capabilities and techniques, and some of that's integration with third-party vendors for mapping and charts and things like that, and the prompt APIs and JavaScript as well. So thanks for joining.
So with that, we will open it up for your questions. First question, we are on Cognos 11.1.x and have some users that used to run a page from a report. Is there a way to still do that? Just run a single page.
Does that sound like bursting?
Yeah, I think it's a multi-page. So let me. I wonder if I can. So why don't you go ahead and unmute and maybe provide some additional detail if you can.
Okay. Thanks for taking my question. We have some users that have like 3 or 4 pages in the report, and usually when troubleshooting, they'll run. For example, you can run one query, and just to test one query. They used to run one page also. There used to be, if you right-clicked on the page, you could run just that one page, just so you could test one page at a time, or just get data for one page at a time, and that doesn't seem to be an option anymore.
Oh, so they took it out of the UI. Maybe a workaround is just move that page to the top of the list of pages and run it. And it should only, if you just run the report, it should only run the first page. So if you just slide it up the list, make it first, run the report, it should only run that first page unless you page down, and then you can just move it back into its order.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you can still go to the query kind of explore, run each individual queries. The query explorer is just a little bit different than before.
Okay.
Yeah, they still do some of the queries, but just the pages for the problem.
Yeah, the view tabular data is still there, but the I'll have to research that. I'm curious if they removed it by mistake, functionality wise, or if it's just been moved. But we can definitely look into that. But yeah, the moving the page around should work for it.
All right, we have another question about visualization. So if I'm building a report with visualizations, how do I select between the different versions of the visualization engine? So like the kind of the classic, the new version. I don't know, Susan, what do you think?
Yeah, I actually got some customer ask this question too. So what happens, this new version Report Studio, the UI changed kind of dramatically. So it takes a while for authors to get used to the UI. What happens within the tool itself, there's a little filter, typically on the top kind of right corner. You click on that filter, you should be able to drop down select, different report chart engine. The very first one should be 11.1 or 11.0, depending on which version you have. And then next will be the old kind of RAVE chart engine. The last bottom one should be the legacy one they call, which is Cognos kind of 8.10 chart engine. So it still gives you option to select different chart engine, but you just have to find the correct spot and using that little filter.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Susan. All right. So another question dealing with the SQL that is generated by the report. Some generated IBM SQL for a query will place the filters in the where statement and other times in a filter statement. Why is this?
That's an excellent question. So the query engine is a bit of a black box, and there are a lot of moving parts, as it were. So how it was originally modeled, whether it's a data module or a framework manager package, the data sources, the drivers, whether it's CQM or DQM, there's a lot of potential reasons why SQL is crafted differently. You may also notice that if you select the generate SQL for a specific query in that window, you will potentially get different results for that query as opposed to if you go to the options and you select the generate the SQL for the entire report. So you might see different things there. Yeah, why it does that, I do not know. And whether or not that's actually what's being sent back to the database based on the native SQL, again, not sure. Not much of an answer, sorry.
All right, so I have another question here regarding slow running reports, right? How might we, what are the ways that we can approach troubleshooting a slow running report. So one of the ways, I don't know, I'm not sure exactly when this came out. I think it may have come out in 11.0. You have the ability in a report to include the performance characteristics of the report when you run it, and that's a checkbox in the drop down for the run when you were at the bottom of the list when you were the list that shows you HTML, PDF, CSV, all of that. Down at the bottom, there's an options, and you click on that, and you can check a box. And when you do that and run the report, it'll actually tell you, I guess, the cost in terms of milliseconds of the various elements that that are part of the report. So layout components, but also the queries, and that can help you determine what might be driving the poor performance. I can probably pull that up and show it to you all in a couple moments. So team, any other, I guess when we're troubleshooting a slow running report, what are some of the other approaches we might take?
Yeah, so I'll add a couple of points, and Susan, obviously you can expand on that. So typically when we see a slow running report, whatever the utility that Scott mentioned is a great start, because it gives you a focus point of where to focus on in terms of performance improvement. Once you identify that, typically there's a couple of different spots where the performance might be a bottleneck. One is at the Cognos server level, depending on how much data or calculations of the crunching the Cognos server is doing. You want to look at some aggregations or any kind of aggregations that's set up at the Cognos server level to figure out what might be causing the issue. And the other approach to that is, if that's working fine, but when you extract the SQL, which is a native SQL, and run in the database, and if that's performing slow, obviously there's some issue with the database. Could be an index missing, could be a filter condition that's not properly defined, which could be bringing in a lot more data than what's required, and that might be causing the performance. And so those are like typically the two places you would look first. And Susan, if you want to add more to that.
Yeah, I agree. So typically I will go with query first, right? That's, usually that's the main driver, right? You're going to check how long really the query costs you, whether it's 2 seconds versus, 20 minutes. The second area will be, like Scott mentioned, the layout. One time we got a report using just one single query. It's really just one single query. However, the report author used a conditional block, repeating the same query maybe 20 times because different kind of condition, which as an end result, the report runs poorly slow because the rendering. So that's typically what I do. Look at query first and then look at the layout.
Okay. So I have brought up a report here I can show you in terms of the include performance characteristics. So I'm going to click on run, show run options right here, include performance details. And just say okay, and then we'll run that as HTML. All right, and what you will see here when it renders is a couple of new pieces of information that are overlaying the report. So this one, we've got a list object here. It's a list data container, a pie chart container, and we are seeing that the execution time for the list was 774 milliseconds, and it's divided up into the render time of 17 milliseconds, and the query took much longer to run. Same is true down here, and then we've also got kind of the total report, right? The total combined piece here of 1360 milliseconds. Also some interesting information about my process ID, my session ID, what the host is. So again, that can be helpful in troubleshooting. An additional question here: should I use full interactive mode or not? And I guess that's the new interactive mode that came out as of Cognos 11. Team, I don't know, maybe you want to offer up some suggestions there.
Yeah, I mean, from my take, I'd say that if your end users are going to be using any of the functionality, yes. And if you're not, I wouldn't bother. There is a load on the report viewer. So there's a lot more JavaScript and things are being sent down as part of the viewer that could slow the report performance a bit. And if they're not actually doing any sorting or grouping or anything, and with the end result, you're just taking a hit for no reason. So I would turn it off. Also, if I'm using, obviously, if I have old JavaScript, I want to leave it off. But if there's things I want to use in custom controls, I would turn it on. So if it's something you're going to use, absolutely. If you're just creating reports for people to view and there's going to be no end user interactivity, it's just going to, I would turn it off because there's no sense in loading all of that extra viewer content.
All right.
Yeah, I agree with though. The new one, it's HTML5 based, so it's on top of different presentation. Most customers, feedback is, like Bob said, if you absolutely want to have the new feature, like you want to, on-demand filtering, click the list headers, do sortings, those kind of cool stuff. You want to turn on these new features. But if you have JavaScript, you have old stuff there, you don't have to turn on this. Actually, by default, for your upgrade report, it still retain the old kind of viewer, so which is kind of cool because once you have the old JavaScript there, your report won't be broken. You don't have to rewrite. But generally, like Bob said, if you truly want to experience the new viewer, have dynamic filtering, sorting, all stuff, turn it on. Otherwise, don't bother.
Yeah, real quick, Scott, too. To that point, it's a great way to alleviate some of the burden on your report writers if you can get your end users to realize that they have analytic capabilities in a report output. I think it's going to take a lot of the burden off of having to build all of the different iterations of a report and making them available, and make the report more of a dynamic data set and let the end users manipulate that with sorting, grouping, and filtering. So if you're not using it, that's fine, but it's definitely something that can benefit the organization and your report writers in the long run if you start to use it. So.
All right, thank you. All right, another question. Is Report Studio going away? All right, so I can, certainly give you my perspective. So, certainly Cognos or IBM has spent time developing things like dashboards, things like stories, but they still continue to put development time and effort into Report Studio reporting, I guess is what it's called now, or Report Studio underneath. So that investment is continuing, and I think just based on the vast amount of Report Studio reports out there in the world in all the Cognos environments, I don't see it going away anytime soon. I don't know, team, if you've got a perspective on that as well.
I think just from in general, Cognos is a great enterprise reporting tool, and Report Studio is one of the best out there. So I would totally agree with Scott on that they might add more functionality to improve the mode 2 capabilities into it, but also enhance the mode 1, which is the enterprise reporting capabilities, which it's already great at.
Yeah, I would agree on that. It's funny how we often build quote unquote dashboards that are actually more reporting applications, and Report Studio or the report authoring environment is great for that because it gives you a lot of flexibility with conditional possibilities and JavaScript custom controls, things like that. You can really take over the page that a normal dashboard won't let you do. So as long as there's a need for that, I think there's going to be a need for reporting.
All right, let me look for another question. So automatic summaries. So I guess in 11, automatic summaries. How do we turn those off? Bob, if you got a perspective on that, perhaps.
Yeah. So one of my pet peeves as a professional author in reporting is if you drag a list onto a report and you drag a couple of items, it automatically shows you some summary levels. And for the Query Studio style user of report authoring, it's great because it kind of gives you everything you need in one UI gesture. But if you're building it for a professional author or something more specific, you want to turn that off. So if you go into the options of a report, I think it's the report tab. There are two options. One of them is turned on by default, and it's the ability to turn off the auto group and summarize in lists. And that is one that will save you a lot of time. I know if you're building a report with specific requirements and specific needs, that is something you want to turn off, because it'll inevitably end up adding a lot of additional content to the query, because it actually does add summary fields to the query, things that you might not want, and then it'll actually add the summary lines to the list object itself. So you can turn that on and off as part of your options in the properties.
All right, thanks very much, Bob.
I think also,
Go ahead, Susan.
quick one, also related to auto summarizing in the query level. One time I got a user says, she wants to see every single detailed transaction of the whatever sales table they have. However, because Cognos auto summarize the list, she never see the details. What happens, let's say you have one day, you have 10 transactions. Because grouped by the same day, she only see one row says, I sell, $10,000 today. So in order to see all the details, you can also turn off auto summary at the query level. So you truly see every single record from the database.
Okay. Thank you, Susan. So let's see. So also a question about context menu options. I guess what are the options for using the context menu in reporting? Bob, perhaps you've got a perspective on that?
Yeah, that's the pop-up menus. Another great thing that they've added to the Cognos report authoring environment, but it's one of those things that can kind of get in the way. So I think by default, the context-specific menu pops up when you select an object, and you may or may not want that at the time. One of the things I notice, and if you're starting to build a more complex report or dashboard, a lot of times that will cover a space that you want to either see or access next. So there's a couple of options. You can pin that so it always appears at the top of the page. That can be, that gets it out of your way, and it'll always depend on what you've selected. There's also an option in the properties, again, that you can select a right-click option so that context specific menu will not appear unless you right-click on the object. And if you're starting to build some more complex reports with a lot of objects, I think that's one of the best ways to do it, because you can, it's hidden until you actually need it, and then it's not going to cover other objects that you might be trying to be accessing.
Okay. All right. So with that, we are just about at the end of our allotted time. So, thank you all for joining, and certainly take a look at the calendar of events that are upcoming. Again, next week is focused on Tableau, but also, the email address at the bottom, if you want to send us an idea of what you'd like to see, a topic you'd like to have us cover in a future session. We're happy to review those and put something together. So with that, I want to thank you for all your time. Appreciate your attendance here, and look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. Bye.